We've got some of the owls that have come in the last few weeks here at ECU, and we'll hopefully be able to find out if these guys have been lethally poisoned or not, and to get a bit of information that's going to help us conserve the species. I'm Rob Davis. I'm a senior lecturer at Edith Cowan University in Perth, and I focus on wildlife biology. We started our work in our wildlife lab here at ECU back in about 2016, and PhD student Mike Law started looking at boobook owls. And what he did was he analysed the livers of those owls, because the livers are what concentrate all of those nasty chemicals in the rodenticides. So rather stunningly and shockingly, he actually found that of 73 owls that he analysed, about 75% of them had potentially lethal levels of poisoning from rat and mouse baits. It's not nice having rats and mice in your house. It's estimated that they cause tens of billions of dollars of damage to the economy globally. So I think that the government is obviously not keen to regulate the control of these. And on one hand, we need to be controlling rats and mice. But I also think there are some politically laden issues, a lack of strong interest in regulating some of these nastier chemicals. And the irony of that is a lot of our work has shown we don't need to be using some of these really nasty, what we'd call the second generation rodenticides. Things like our old-fashioned rat and mouse traps, you know, the old snap traps. If you've got the odd mouse or two in your house, that's more than enough. It does get trickier when you have quite an infestation. There are a number of alternatives on the markets. One that's very effective are some of the battery-powered or so-called electric mouse and rat trap. You can live trap. But, you know, I always say I'm not against people using baits. It's just choosing the right bait. And it's not very easy for the consumer to do that. We've got a great case in point here, where we have two identically branded packets, and they look really similar, which the cynical might say is on purpose. And if you look very closely, all the way down here in tiny writing, you'll see that the active ingredient of this one is something called brodifacoum, which is our most common second generation rodenticide. So this one, no good for our rats and mice. However, this one actually has an active ingredient down there of warfarin, which is one of our first generation anticoagulant rodenticides, which is a much better choice for protecting native wildlife. So we've got a tick for that one. Another very common choice for the home consumer are these wax block baits. And now, unfortunately, nearly all of them, including this one, contain brodifacoum, which is, again, our second generation rodenticide, which has a very long persistence time and is one of the main contributors to the death of many of our owls. And I was quite surprised myself to go into Bunnings this morning and see this particularly nasty product. This one, a wax block, contains bromadiolone, which we very rarely see. This was the poison that was planned to be dropped across large areas of the eastern states during the mouse plagues a few years ago. It's particularly nasty and would kill almost anything it came in contact with. And this also contains another very unusual second generation product called difenicum. Now, both of these are highly regulated. If you live in the United States or in many European countries, you won't be able to purchase this. These are only available to licensed pest control operators. Unfortunately, in Australia, we don't have anywhere near the same amount of action from the APVMA, who are the regulatory authority for these. And major retailers like Bunnings simply sell these products to anyone at home. Another big issue that we have found in our research, which really concerned us greatly, was that when we started looking at other components of the ecosystem, particularly our reptiles, we were finding evidence of rat and mouse bait in those species. And we're talking things like the much loved and common bobtail or shingleback lizard, snakes like the dugite. This is just really indicating that when we use rat and mouse bait, it's not just killing owls, it's actually penetrating right through the food chain. many people will be aware of DDT, and there was this obviously really widespread use of DDT, which led to the thinning of eggshells and the near extinction of common birds of prey like the osprey, particularly in Europe and North America. And we were able to address that by regulating the use of that, and we've seen luckily the full recovery, albeit taking many decades to happen. So these things can potentially be addressed with the right action, particularly by governments and regulators.